Welcome to Fundamentals of Action Research at Belhaven University. I am Dr. Jim Young, and I'm the Dean of Doctoral Studies and serve in our School of Education and manage our Doctor of Education program. And in this course, we're going to be exploring the Action Research Project pathway as a culmination to the EDD degree. And specifically in this session, we're going to look at the distinctions related to action research. We're going to talk about what they are and how it's different from traditional dissertation research. So let's begin with the end in mind. You all are going to be developing a preliminary plan for an action research project that will be implemented in an assigned partner school district in Mississippi. And so the focus of this course, the end goal, is to develop an action research project plan. And in order to do that, we need to understand the fundamentals of what action research is and how it's different from traditional dissertation research. So the competencies for this session, you should leave with being able to differentiate between action research and traditional dissertation research. You should also be able to explain the fundamental components of an action research project. There's going to be a very prescribed set of components that should comprise an action research project plan, and you need to know what those are in order to develop this plan. You should be able to articulate the goals for your action research project in writing as well as verbally. But you also need to be able to analyze and organize recent and relevant academic literature. It's so important. That is one of the shared attributes of action research and traditional dissertation research. You should be able to analyze your action research focus or topic because it will be assigned to you using artificial intelligence to see how theoretical frameworks or a conceptual model or both are connected to the problem you're investigating, to the topic you're exploring. So you're going to be using some AI in this course. You also are going to be able to construct a communication plan and some action steps, some SMART goals for your action research project. They're going to help guide the process because you've got to be organized. The action research project moves more rapidly as a practical matter than traditional dissertation research. And so you're going to have a very clear plan for communication with the stakeholders in your study, those individuals in the partner district, and your Belhaven faculty liaison and support system. So you're going to have a communication plan and action steps. And the end game, again, is to develop an action project prospectus, and that is the plan. So like with all other online learning modalities here at Belhaven, the tools are available to you. You're going to have the videos posted in Canvas so that you can hear and see. You need to read what is prescribed and the textbook for the course. You need to complete any assignments that are posted in the course syllabus. You need to participate in discussion and complete all of these components that are aligned with the objectives of the course. So you all will be familiar with the online learning environment at Belhaven. You know the characteristics. It's going to be a lot of self-driven, self-motivated learning. You're going to move at a prescribed pace, but you have to be motivated. So you've got to be motivated on your own. You've got to stay on top of deadlines. You've got to be focused. And you are responsible for completing assignments and discussions by the designated times they are due. And it's a myth that online learning is easier. It is not necessarily easier than traditional classroom learning. It's just a different modality. And so it requires, frankly, in my opinion, more discipline in order to be successful online because you do have to have that self-motivation and you have to monitor those deadlines and be focused on what is coming up. You're going to have your course page available to you in Canvas, which is where you'll be submitting assignments. You'll be participating in weekly discussions, and you'll be watching videos for each of the sessions where we cover content in the course. So be attentive to what's coming up. I encourage all of our candidates in School of Education, regardless of course, always start the beginning of the week and look at what's due, because if you have questions, you'll have time to ask before you have a looming deadline at the end of the week. So the courses end on Saturday evening. You need to be sure to meet those deadlines. And so check in earlier in the week about what's coming up, and getting clarification if you need it is very important. So the most important thing I can tell you to do, not just for the purposes of this course, but in your program and in life, is to communicate when you have questions. Be engaged, participate, be involved in discussion. So be sure to get clarity if you need it on an assignment or a component or something that's unclear about the expectations or about the course or the program in general. So the objectives specifically for this session would be that you can identify and explain those primary distinctives or distinctions between action research and traditional dissertation research. Most of you are very, very familiar with dissertation research. You know what it is. Most doctoral programs lead to some type of research project, and traditionally that is a dissertation project. It involves reading relevant literature and designing a study to collect data and do analysis to address a problem or gap in the literature. Action research isn't totally different than that. It's just a different approach and much more specific in what the focus of your study is. Another objective for this session is to be able to summarize the goals of the action research project. This is critical, particularly on the front end. You also need to be able to define the stakeholders of an assigned action research project and possible limitations. Again, you're going to be assigned a partner school district. You're going to be assigned a research topic or problem that the district has requested be investigated. So you need to unpack and define who the stakeholders are and what the limitations of conducting that research in the district might be. Let's begin with a firm foundation in the Word of God with Proverbs 2:6. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth come knowledge and understanding. This is it. It's where all knowledge comes from. God is the source. So from the very beginning, it's where we obtain knowledge and understanding. So always begin any project with asking the Lord what he wants to show you through that process. And then Joshua 1:9. This happens to be one of my all-time favorite verses of Scripture. Have not I commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. I can go ahead and tell you anytime you're doing any type of research, but particularly something that is unique and sort of a capstone project like this action research project or dissertation would be, it can be daunting, it can be overwhelming, it can be scary because there's multiple processes. You have been learning and in school a long time to be at this point. And so there can be a lot of unknowns. You're going to be dependent on other people and stakeholders, people you may not know that are likely going to be strangers to you, that are going to come alongside you and help you get your research goals accomplished. So there can be a lot of anxiety. I hope not fear, but just be strong, be courageous. You're going to get through this and you're going to have the support you need to get it done. So let's start with the question, what is action research? McNiff refers to this. Action refers to what you do. I think this is the primary distinction between action research and traditional dissertation research. You're going to take some action. You're going to recommend some action. You're going to do some reading. You're going to do some investigation, some exploring. Your research is going to be focused on a particular issue or problem your partner school district has identified, and you are going to be writing up an action research report that makes a recommendation for some action to take place. You may actually begin the stages of that action or test that action as part of your action research project. But just know action or actions will be part of this action research project. Research just refers to how you find out about what you do. So rather than in traditional dissertation research where you read to find a gap, and all of that is going to lead to a recommendation to study something yet unknown, action research is going to lead to an action plan that can be implemented to address a specific problem. So I just mentioned this. A key distinction is in traditional dissertation research, it should always lead to recommendations for future research. You're going to study some constructs, you're going to ask some questions, you're going to contribute to the literature, but it leads to more questions. Now that you find this, you recommend somebody go study or carry that further and address what is still yet known. And action research does not have that same goal. Action research should lead to an action that addresses a very specific issue or problem. And fortunately for you, if you're watching this session, you are on an action research pathway, and we are going to identify for you what the issue and the problem is that needs investigation. With traditional dissertation research, you would have to go read and discover what the gap is and what the problem is. But in this path, on this pathway, we are going to assign that to you. So congratulations. Other distinctives that we'll mention briefly, and these are discussed in your text. Action research really owns a commitment to educational improvement, and that is really what I associate with action research, or have since I was exposed to it. It really is more of a continuous improvement model. Something's not working right, so we want something to try to make it better. There's a problem, there's an issue, there's a gap. Excuse me, there's an underperformance. So the goal is to improve something or to address a problem. Action research is going to very likely focus on specific, special kinds of research questions. Like your research questions are going to be targeted directly to the issue, the problem, or the focus of your study. You have to take responsibility for the self. Like, you're going to own the process, you're going to design the plan, you're going to look at what's happening, and you're going to make a recommendation for an action that can be taken in that scenario to address the problem. Educational action that is informed and committed and intentional. Like, so you can't just go into this and say, I'm going to try this intervention, or I'm going to try this strategy. It's got to be informed by reading. I mentioned earlier, traditional dissertation research relies on a lot of review of recent relevant academic literature and dissertations and scholarly articles to identify or a gap or a problem. You still have to do the reading to understand what has been done related to your assigned issue or problem. You're just not mining the literature for your own problem. We're going to give that to you, but you do have to be informed. And once you are informed and you've done the reading in that area, you've got to commit and you've got to be intentional about developing plans to address that problem. So action research is always going to involve some type of interrogation, deconstruction, and decentering. So don't let decentering fool you. It's kind of an unusual word. Essentially, it's taking the individual out of the process. You're looking at more of a systemic issue or problem that goes beyond a single human involved in a scenario or in a given context. And in your case, this is going to be in an educational setting, likely a school or a district or a systemic issue. But it's going to involve asking questions, conducting some type of interrogation. You want to be as objective as possible, and then deconstructing what's going on. Oftentimes, if there's an issue or a systemic problem, the district wants to know what's causing that. So you have to unpack it and deconstruct the situation to figure it out. The primary goal for action research is problem solving. There's a problem, and the district or the school wants it solved. And you're going to help do that with your action research plan. Collaboration for immediate application. So you're going to be talking with and interacting with stakeholders in the partner school district about what's going on, about what's happening, what's been tried. The goal is to develop an immediate application to address that problem or to help solve it. And I thought this is taken from McNiff's text, like it's a side-by-side of really the distinctives or just a comparison between action research and dissertation research. So you'll be learning more about this when you do your reading, but it really is about practical problem solving with action research, whereas dissertation research is focused on making a contribution to the literature that already exists. Action research is focused on collaboration. Research can be done almost in isolation and is more of an in-depth analysis. So you can understand these distinctives on your own as you read, but you'll see as you develop your action research project, this is all about addressing a specific problem in a partner school district that will be assigned to you. So you need to complete the reading assignments for this session. You need to begin work on the writing assignments and participate in the discussions. And that's going to be a wrap for this session, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.